Hi guys, welcome back to the show. I'm so excited for today. You guys, the guest I'm bringing on is absolutely amazing. Anita Anello. Sorry guys, I'm still trying to get that last name down. She is the founder of Ripple Effect, a former successful software executive, now dedicated to helping successful women entrepreneurs of faith enjoy more time, money, and freedom. And who doesn't want that? So I love what she does. She's also the host of The Messy Middle, One Mom's Journey to Building a Profitable Business. So welcome to the show, Anita. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. It's such a pleasure having you on. How's it going?
Oh, thank you, Brittany. I'm happy to be here and just getting to know you already. I'm super excited to support what you're doing and just share how we can connect and help other women in this space.
I love it. I love it. So, Anita, I guess, I gave you a brief intro, but this would be the perfect time, if you don't mind, kind of telling us a little bit about your story. What got you to where you are today? I know you have quite the journey that you have been through. So, if you're open to it, I think this is a perfect time to go ahead and fill in those gaps.
Sure. So I had previously been a software executive for a big global organization and really totally loved so many things about my job. And in that journey, what I found is I started to have kids. And in that, I really had a heart to be able to homeschool our kids. And so we started kind of on a small scale. But years go by and the school demands get a little bit more. And I was kind of I was struggling to try to figure that out. So at about 43 years old, I had an opportunity to retire early from the software space and come home and homeschool my kids full time. And I just was so excited. Like that was just my heart's desire to be able to school my own kids and just teach them all the things that really God had put on my heart. And so we went through that season for about 9 years or so. And then as your kids start to grow and the schooling demands get a little bit less, and I kind of started to get restless those last couple of years. And in 2018, we moved from Southern California down to the Texas area. And I just kind of had this nagging sense the whole time, like from the time that I retired to the time that I started building businesses again, I just had this sense, I was really convinced that I could, but I wasn't quite sure how it was going to work out. But I had this nagging sense of like, I knew that I had all this specialized knowledge, I had all this skill set, but I wasn't quite sure how to reapply it. Because if I wanted to go back to work and go back into the tech space, really the idea of going back into consulting and working a 60 or 80-hour work week, what I had previously worked, like in the midst of homeschooling, in the midst of raising my kids, like that just was not going to work. And so I just kept searching and searching. I started an Amazon business in 2018, and that was kind of fun for a while. It kind of, like stirred up these entrepreneurial juices inside me that I knew that I had. But I realized that an inventory business wasn't really my thing. And then COVID hit. And so I was grateful to have a bunch of inventory in the warehouses, but the whole world shut down, including all the Amazon warehouses. And in that process, I really started to dig in deeper because I had started a business and loved those aspects of problem solving and figuring some of those things out. But I really, it wasn't like the exact right fit for me personally. And so I started going on this journey and realizing in that process that actually, because of my experience as a project manager and a consultant and really a problem solver, I found that I was naturally coaching people all over the place and teaching people. And those were things I was like, oh, well, I was doing these things all over the place, but I ended up connecting with a coach and he helped me walk through the process of creating a business around that skill set of taking this idea that I had and kind of building a business around it. So then I had pretty good success along the way. But then last year was really a big game changer for me in my business. And so that went from like 2018, starting the Amazon business, to around 2021, starting in the coaching space. But last year was really the kicker because my husband we had like 3 massive incidences right in a row. So we had a major marriage upset. We had a radical like hospital situation. My husband was hospitalized for a health situation, and then a job loss, like all within about an 8-week period. So in that process, it was like, oh, I'm going to have to figure out things like really right now, really, really fast. So what I did is I went back and connected with some of my friends in the software space. So I was building the coaching business, and that was going along, but revenue wise, it was going really too slow for where we were at this point. And so this was like May of last year, not quite a year ago. So in that, I started connecting with people that I knew in the software industry. And like I said, so I went from having like general knowledge in the software space of being, doing like support type jobs and then consultant type jobs. And then as I grew in my career, I started to have more of what I call a specialized knowledge. So when you're a consultant, you're doing the work usually and implementing software and that kind of stuff. If you add on a layer of specialty and start to be a project manager, then you're adding more expertise because you're overseeing people that are doing the work. And then my sweet spot on top of that was I had really a great knack for rescuing like high ticket projects that were way off budget and way off base on their time frame. And it was really escalation management that also included change management for businesses. And so because I knew I had that skill set and I needed, like in an emergency way, I needed a way to provide for my family. So again, I connected with some folks that I knew in the software space, and nothing really seemed like it was coming together, except for I had some friends that are like, wait a minute, I have these clients that fit that mold that I know that you're really, really good at. And I know that it's like your perfect sweet spot. So I started connecting with a couple of clients that really fit this bill. And do you know, we were able to, this is just kind of high level and we can dig into it. In that space of taking on a massive client that was, again, they had a huge, let's see, well, I won't share super specifics about the client because they're client confidential, but they were 5-ish years off pace on their software project, multiple figures, 6 figures in their software implementation. And they're going to be, they're moving in the space of being like $100 million business. And to have that kind of project be that far off is like it's radical. That's like lawsuit, people losing their jobs, that kind of level.
That's life-changing stuff. Yeah.
Right. So I get connected with these folks and start bringing their project back up to speed. And in that process, I was like, oh my gosh, well, wait a minute. Like, again, like it's like this natural fit of I already had the specialized knowledge. I already had the skill set. How do I now reapply it in a different way? And actually that unlocked so many things in my coaching business, because I started to see, as successful women in the space over here, how do we take that and transition that into a way where we can build a business around that, a consulting business around that specialized knowledge? And do you know, Brittany, I was able to do a couple of big things. I was able to take and triple my income from my previous successful income. Like I was very successful in the software space, so I had a great income already, but triple that. And then I was able to take my work week and minimize it so far down that I was working half, sometimes a quarter of what I was working in the previous space. I also was able to pay off, because remember, my husband, we had a job loss situation. At that time, he was the sole provider for our household. And we were able to pay off $45,000 in medical debt in 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, while we're talking about that topic, how did you make that possible? Because this is huge and it speaks volume. Tell me how you went from working half the time you used to tripling what you were making in like half the time, because who doesn't want that? Everyone wants that. So tell us your secrets.
So really what I do when I coach other ladies, it's being able to tap into that, like, what is their heart of hearts, like their secret weapon? Because we all have that. Now, generally what the sweet spot of ladies that I work for are with are a little bit farther in their career. So I would typically say, like, maybe if you're 20 and you're kind of figuring out your game, you might say to me, like, Anita, I don't really have a specialized skill. But these days, like we see in the online space, we do see entrepreneurs that at a really young age, they are really, really good at something. But essentially, it's helping those corporate women be able to say, like, you're so good at, I always picture it this way. If you picture like a target, right? And on the concentric circles, all the way on the outer edge, like those are all the things you can do. And then as we go through the process of really narrowing down and getting to the center of that target of what are you so good at, and you could do all day long, you could talk about it forever, and you just get such energy off of it. So being able to help other ladies identify their specialized knowledge, their specialized skill set is one thing that we first focus on. And then in terms of timing, like how many of us don't want, especially when, like, as women, you might be married, you might be raising your own kids, you want to be intentional with your family and your family time and your time with your husband. But how do we do that when we're already dedicating 40 or 50 or 60 or 80 hours a week to somebody else? Like, that's really, really challenging. And that whole work-life balance, like, I just think that's such nonsense in the corporate space. So, but we could say that
it feels impossible, right?
It does. And it really is, when you think about it, to try to have the bandwidth at that level of commitment to someone else, and then be intentional with your people and show up with like, hey, I've got energy to love on you and read you bedtime story and teach you and all those kinds of things. Like, I've met so many ladies across my career that have said, gosh, I always wanted to homeschool my kids. Gosh, I always wanted to travel with my kids. I always wanted to, and fill in the blank. Like, women, when they start to have children, oftentimes they realize, like, oh my gosh, like, I've had this God-sized idea of this picture of how life was supposed to be when I was married and raising kids, that it's not there. Like, how do I get to that? And so we walk them through a very prescriptive process of helping them identify their specialized knowledge and turning that into a consulting business that allows them really to get these metrics. Now, I will say this, like, I think each of us have to determine what business success looks like, right? We know a lot of people in the online space that can say, you can build this kind of business in these kind of hours, but I think it's important for us to determine what those values are for ourselves, because everybody's life looks a little bit different, and what they want and what they need is a little bit different.
I totally agree. Everyone's business looks different, and everyone's life and what they want from it is going to be different. So that's where you step in. I just want to clarify, you help them clarify what it is they want, to see the bigger picture first, and then you kind of take it from there.
That's right. That's right. So we walk through a 6-step process that helps them to be able to do things like identify their specialized knowledge, be able to create a following, then nurture that following, create the Ritz-Carlton level of experience, I call it. Because I mean, I don't know. I know that when you're successful, you start to spend more when you go out for leisure time. And so I thought, well, I want to be served at a Ritz-Carlton level. So probably my clients want to be served at a Ritz-Carlton level. And so being able to walk them through that process of saying, like, what are we really good at? How do we gather clients? How do we connect with people and be able to draw them into us? How do we work on our messaging to say, like, we want to be able to draw in the people that are a right fit audience, and we want to repel everybody else, because I don't need to work with 8.5 billion people. I want to work with the people that resonate with me and then I can resonate with them. I'm also super protective in our mastermind about who gets to join the mastermind, because I want to work with people that are action takers and really genuinely, like, not complainers. So
love it. This is so great. We are definitely on the same page in regards to that. Now, I think it's really important, like for yourself and other entrepreneurs, to really niche down and get crystal clear on who it is they want to work with. Because like you said, we don't need to work with everyone. The right people will see the value of what we have to offer, and it honestly brings and attracts more money anyways, and you're changing more lives. So I know we talked about this before we actually got on the interview, but I think your points were so amazing that I'd love to share with my audience as to why it's so important to niche down and get clear on who you want to work with.
I think that it actually helps us to get traction faster. when we're super specific about who we're helping, why we're helping, and the way that we help them, right? So I could, for instance, I could say that I help every woman out there. Well, that's not really accurate, because as a Christian mom, like even my, I might, and I'm totally okay with this. Like I might offend somebody, or somebody might be repelled by the fact that I'm going to say, hey, you have a God-sized idea inside of you. Frankly, whether you know God or not, like you do, I believe that about you. And so I know that when we walk through the process of getting real specific, this is just what I've experienced. When I was real general of, oh my gosh, I want to coach everybody. Nope, that doesn't work. Then my coach had said, hey, let's go ahead and narrow it down. And so you really start to do some inward thinking and determining like, well, where does my heart cry out? Like, honestly, sometimes when I think about my clients and I connect with my clients and we do one-on-one calls, like tears might come down to our eyes, because when I talk to a mom who is so incredibly strapped for time and money and is like buried in debt and hates her job, like those are the things that I walked through that really resonate. And those are the gals that like, oh my gosh, like I love you. I want to work with you right now because I can relate to where they are. And so I've noticed in my experience that it's also about relating to one another. And I'm not going to relate to every person that's out there. I'm going to relate to a specific segment of the market and get real clear on talking to the specific segment to the market, because they're going to understand the language that I use. My story is going to resonate with them, and it's going to hit them a little bit differently than maybe, like a guy in the tech space versus a lady who's successful in the tech space, right? Because we each navigate like similar things in life, but also different things at the same time. So I always think it's important to find somebody who can walk shoulder to shoulder with us through the different things in life.
Absolutely. And I know that a lot of others, entrepreneurs have gone through similar challenges where it doesn't work when you're too broad about who you want to work with, where they're like, okay, I haven't narrowed down who I want to work with. I haven't niched down yet, but I have tons and tons of leads that are coming my way. However, I notice one challenge all the time with that is, but they can't afford my program, or they can't afford my product. And it is because you're attracting the wrong people. You got to get really clear on who you want to work with and attract the right avatar, right? Because when you're just attracting anyone, it's not usually going to work. Therefore, you're working way harder and you're not making as much money. So most people know that now, like entrepreneurs at your figure and other ones that we work with, they all understand how important it is to niche down and get clear, and how important it is to increase prices because they are valuable and stuff, and not be afraid of increasing those prices, because if you're attracting the right people, you're still going to make that same amount of money, but much faster.
Yes. So I think there's two things that you said in there that are really interesting. Number one is like, I tell you what, I've tried a whole bunch of those different methods. Like I had a chat bot that would run off a Facebook ad that would attract people in, and you're like, oh, I really want to help you. And they'd say like, I can't afford your $7 offer, much less your $97 offer. And it was like, oh,
never mind a high ticket.
Yeah. And I was like, never mind my high ticket master. Because
we won't even mention that.
From experience, I have said, like, I've gone down that route of being able to try to share my message with everybody. And let me just say, like, the short version of that, it was kind of a disaster in that I ended up spending a lot of money, spending a lot of time, and not getting the results that I was looking for in a business. The other thing that you mentioned that was really interesting is I like in this journey, one of the things that I recognize, Brittany, is that there is value that I have in my life, and that value is worth something. Now, my value is not determined based on my prices or anything silly like that. Like my value is in who God says that I am, and it's full stop after that. But I know from experience with talking to other women that when I'm able to connect with them, when I'm able to hear their story, when they walk through my application process, when they're able to engage with me and they're ready and willing to do something about where they are, it's like nobody's business, because then they realize that they're actually making an investment in themselves by working with somebody like you or like me, and we can take them faster. Like, here's the reality, right? We've all gone as far as we possibly can on our own, and then we hit a spot where we just can't go any farther because we need the collective experience of somebody else who is some steps ahead of us to be able to say, like, okay, honey, come on, like, let me take a hand, and you're behind me. Let me help you take one step forward. So I'm also very specifically looking for women that are, and only connect and work with clients that know what it's like to make investments in big ways for themselves, for their education. They are more likely like the breadwinner of their household. And so they're, even though their husband is in the picture, and she honors and recognizes her husband and his value that he brings to the marriage, she's usually a woman that's able to make those decisions. The income is already there. She's able to say, I'm going to invest in myself to be able to grow myself to do this next thing. They're also usually the kind of gals that will say, like, I know it's going to take a little time, like that. Oh, it just drives me crazy when I hear people say in the online space, like, you're going to be a millionaire overnight. And I'm like, that's such a lie.
That's a lie. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
It totally diminishes like the value of all the steps that I took to be able to get to this spot, to grow my business to there. So that, you know, and so those gals, like, that's really, when we talk about our sweet spot and the clients that we really attract, it's those ladies who not just have success in life in their corporate job, but they're willing to make the investment to take the next step. And they see the value that I bring or you bring to the table to be able to help them take that next step. And that's critical. Like we kind of alluded to earlier, like the antithesis of the person that I don't want to work with is somebody who refuses to acknowledge any specialized expertise in themselves. They can't invest. They don't want to invest. They're too fearful. Their whole persona,
the fear of failure. Yeah, and
like
also you want those action takers where their clock is at 12 and they're ready to go. It's so important to invest in yourself, in a mentor and a coach, really. And one thing I wanted to, going off of what you said last, I'd like to know, like, your biggest way today within your business, how you scale and how you're growing. What are some of the biggest ways that are working for you today?
So that is an excellent question, and especially having been in technology. One of the things, there's like two ways that I think is super important for all of us as entrepreneurs to scale. Number one is to build systems. Everything in the business has to be repeatable based on a system, and crafting out systems. Like for me as a project manager, it's kind of a no-brainer because like everything works in a systematic way. That's all of life. But I get that not everybody sees that. And so just a real simple way to say is building systems around yourself and your business. The other thing that I love, I read an excellent book by Dan Sullivan. It's called Who Not How. And it's recognizing that,
also have read it.
I love that, right? I don't have to be the one that delivers everything. Because what a misnomer, right? Especially for those of us that have been in like the corporate world or worked another job on a team in any capacity. We're so used to being able to like dole out the responsibilities. And then we shift over to the entrepreneur space and we're like, oh my God, I have to do everything myself. I don't have time. Like, I don't have time to take on another full-time job to build a business. And so I think it's really key to recognize that we build a team around us that can help us to be able to grow to the level they want. Now, definition of team can be completely subjective. Your team could be one person, it could be more than one. I don't really care. It's whatever works for the entrepreneur, but being able to recognize that we don't have to and we can't do everything on our own and then still have healthy relationships all the way around us, right? If you think of like Zig Ziglar or Dan Miller, where they use like that wheel of life in all of those areas of life that we want to be super successful. Like if I just focus on my career or my business and I leave my health and my family and my faith and my social life, if I leave all that and let it go, like all of those areas are going to sink. And then I'm going to I'm actually not going to be successful in life because I'm so laser focused on one area that all these other areas are going to be lost in the mix. And for me, I kind of learned the hard way. Like I got to the corporate ladder, the top, and I had the accolades and the money and the title and the success all around me. But I was actually really lonely. I was really lonely and I was really confused because I got to the top of this ladder and I looked around and I was like, is this it? Really? Are you sure this is it? Because I'm not really very satisfied. Like I feel like I had all the stuff around me, but I actually lost a lot in the process. And that was when I was in the corporate space. And so that was a journey for me to figure out, getting so solid in who God said I was and repairing the relationships around me and really taking a step back and realizing like life is not just about one thing. It's not about just the career or just the money. Like money is wonderfully important and we can do great things with it. I love that. But I don't love the money just for the money's sake, right? That would be silly of me, especially as a believer and a Christian. Like if that was my only goal, then that would shine through in everything I say. And that's not it. My heart's desire is to really help and serve other people.
Which is so huge, because you're not chasing that money, you're looking to change those lives, which you're doing. And I know we have such a short episode here, but I do have one question, especially because you've gone through it yourself. Now, leaving corporate with that huge title and making all the money that you did, what were the feelings you had when leaving corporate and taking that leap of faith into starting a business?
I kind of went through this progression, and because I retired and came home and homeschooled my kids in the meantime, honestly, it took me about a full year to figure out my identity again after I retired, because my life was so wrapped up in my title and my income, and that's just where I was at, just full, being all transparent. Like I was a little bit lost for a little while. And it took some time. I distinctly remember I went on a woman's retreat and I was like, God, if I'm not this person over here in the corporate space, like who am I? Right. And so I actually walked through that process, and I had some incredible ladies that came alongside me, like bless their hearts. They were so amazing to walk me through that process of helping me figure out like, well, what does life look right now? And God was just so gracious with me as well, because he gave me like 3 things. Like, Anita, your life is only about schooling your kids, loving your husband, and prayer. And that's it. And so that was my season for a long time, which is also why when it was time to kind of get back into building businesses, like I was ready. And it was like a trajectory, because I spent a lot of time just loving on other people and serving my family and really being concerned about like, I have kids I have to raise and I want their lives to be successful. Like I've had a measure of success and I don't have to worry about me. And so I was able to really cheerlead my husband and his career at that season and grow like deep character in our children in that. And we were able to do some travel and all sorts of fun things. So the other thing was that it gave me time to be introspective on what my next steps were going to be. I would dabble in some things. And do you know, Brittany, every single time I would like try something and it would just blow up in my face. Then I would try something.
But you got to try all these different things. Trial and error.
I did. I was super excited and grateful for the experience of like, honestly, trying and failing and trying and failing and trying and failing and learning along the way. Oh, nope, that's not me. Oh, nope, that's not for me. Oh, I can't do that. That like jacks up my kid's schedule, or, all those things. So I was grateful for kind of like those little dabbling in projects along the way, because then when the pieces started to come together, it did feel like things took off overnight. But notice what I'm saying. I'm not saying I was an overnight success just because. It was the progressive step of trying and failing and trying and failing and taking that really like that 10-year journey. And when things came together, it looked like it was a hockey stick of success and an overnight success, but it really wasn't, right? We know better than that. It was long and steady steps. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And it's
I was
crazy
so
right before.
grateful.
Absolutely. And it's crazy because, and I hear on so many of my interviews, it's right before like that breaking point is where everything comes together. So I love it. Anita, this has been amazing. I just want to thank you again for coming on. But before we jump off, I just want to take the time for you to go ahead and let my audience know the best way to connect with you if they are ready for that coaching, if they're looking to, triple their revenue and work less. I mean, you've done it yourself. And if they are looking to connect with you, what would be the best way?
Yeah, so the best way is they can connect on my website, which is The Ripple Effect, and effect is spelled with an A. And in that, they can go to /programs. So The Ripple Effect for .net/programs. And in that, if you think about it this way, I believe that as women, we have the ability to make a ripple effect that goes out and affects everyone else based on the decisions that we do. And so that's why we're creating a community and a movement of women that can be cheerleaded, they can be championed, they can be encouraged along the way. I think it's so important as Christian moms to be to find a safe place where people can really cheer us on. Oftentimes inside the church, you and I talked about this before the interview, we don't always find our place in the mix of that church environment. And I just want to say, like, call out to those gals in particular, like those ladies that are really finding and looking specifically for a group of ladies that want to cheerlead them and champion them in the big ideas and the big vision that God has given them. Like, I just love that. I want you to be a part of our community. I do have a high ticket mastermind that we offer. That's an application only basis because I'm super protective of the ladies that are already in the group, and being able to say, how do we support one another? Like, your ideas are great and my ideas are great. What can we do together to help you to take that next step? And so those are and then I'm all over social media if you want to just track down The Ripple Effect. And again, effect is with an A. You can find me there, or Anita Anello, and you can find me all over social on all those different handles.
This is so great. Well, thank you so much, Anita. This has been absolutely incredible. And I'm so excited to see what happens with your mastermind. I mean, with all this success, I can't wait to have you on again on the show and, in the near future and see where we're at then. Super exciting. But you added so much value for myself and my audience. So thank you so much.
Bless you, Brittany. I'm so happy to be here and just want to bless you and all that you're doing to be able to serve the entrepreneur community. Yeah, we appreciate you.
Aw, thank you so much. Group, if you're listening and enjoyed, please like and subscribe. If you're 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure entrepreneur and want to come on the show to talk about your business, talk about the podcast, and talk about some wins and challenges. If you're open to being vulnerable, this is the place to do it. So please go to top100interview.com. We'd love to have you on as well. Thanks so much. Thanks, Anita. Catch you on the next episode, you guys.